Okay. So, for anyone who's watching this on YouTube later, I just want to explain what has just happened. So, I I just got wrapped up with a league. I was just about to sign off for the night. When someone said, "Hey, I just tuned in. Are we about to do a red white league?" And I said, "No, no, I'm about to go to bed." And he just says, "How much to do another stream right now?" And I said, $20. And less than a minute later, I had a $20 donation in my PayPal account. So it looks like we're doing another league tonight, and I'm just going to be a tired puppy in the morning. I feel guilty, but you talked with me on Reddit once regarding my deck list, and it was very helpful. I'm always happy to help. I answer almost all of the Reddit comments and source comments that people ship me. Um, so I'm gonna leave the deck list up here for 30 seconds, and if I'm gonna do another stream, I'm gonna need some more water here, and I'm gonna use the restroom. If you have any questions about bribery or about this deck list, feel free to throw them in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer those in about 30 seconds before we start the stream here. All right. Bonus stream, go, go, go. Wait, before you start, play with 1 extra plains, 1 less cavern, because that's my build right now. Fuck it, sure. So on the off chance that we play against miracles, we will diversify these. And we'll play two snow-covered plains, 2 regular plains. How much would it take for you to add 2x Spirit of the Labyrinth? I would, under regular circumstances, for a $12 donation, I will play a D&T deck list of your choice. So the answer is $12. But I don't know that I could put up with Spirit of the Labyrinth right now in the silly state that I'm going to be in. You paid and get the chair. Maybe the chair won't get paired against Nick Fit. Yeah, no problem. All right, so this stream is brought to you by Eric and Dr. Pepper, because Phil's going to need some caffeine to get through most or all of this league. All right, we're playing with red-white taxes, and let's bat. If this Dr. Pepper doesn't explode. That's close. Incoming write-up request. Ooh, okay. I'm in. Okay, I will I will check that PayPal transaction in the morning. And I will get back to you. Thraben University is now entirely for profit, no longer for the people. Praise be. Praise be to Thalia, the cult of Thalia. We can't be a good cult unless we're collecting money, right? That's how that works. MTG. I don't recognize my opponent's name. Last seen on 4-color control, but it was quite some time ago. I will keep this hand. This is a reasonable hand in the dark. It has double Thalia, which is good against a lot of the format. And if we draw like a fetch land or something like that, it is quite good against all the random decks of the format that are multicolored. Alright, so now we curve Thalia into Magus of the Moon, just like God intended. Chat is on fire tonight. So for anyone not following the chat, comments are fire. Alright, Moonman resolved. Awesome. So, just to make sure that everyone is following along, in case you're just listening to this, Moxel says, I feel like us subs should band together in solidarity and demand a Spirit of the Labyrinth emote. Alright, you got my Magus. Good job. Someone else says you gotta pay your tithe to the D&T cult of Thalia, and then Thraben University is now ITT Tech, in tribute to Thalia Tech. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and lead on Thalia this turn. And I think I want a Mom rather than Swords to Deathrite. Especially since, like, if I wanted the Swords to Deathrite, I would have had to do that first. But I think Mom is just better. Like, give my opponent 2 cards they have to answer. If I don't subscribe to anyone on Twitch, is it just a recurring $5 donation every month? Ooh, jeez. That's a punishing fire. Ooh, man. So my opponent is on a check pile deck with punishing fire. That is rough. How do I best deal with this? So I can Swords Deathrite Shaman and Wasteland my opponent to keep them very tight on resources, and then plan on following up with, like, Recruiter for Magus of the Moon or Recruiter for P and K later on, which is probably good. Kenny, thank you very much for subscribing. Oh geez, Dak Faden coming. Eric, thank you very much for subscribing as well. I'd hold the Waste for a Grove. Oh, that's a fair point. But, like, if I remove this Deathrite Shaman and they don't have Grove and they missed a land drop here, so I don't think they have Grove currently, so I should probably play to what is available. And, like, as soon as I get some Jitte counters, then, like, the Punishing Fire doesn't matter anymore, and as soon as I get Magus of the Moon, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm going for choking my opponent here. So, like, there's a fine line between... I don't know... Oh, does my opponent have, like, a force and they're gonna force this? Wow. That is valuing Deathrite Shaman very, very highly. So, the interesting thing here is that there's not actually a land in the graveyard. And my opponent missed a land drop, so them protecting this Deathrite Shaman that heavily is strange. Because now I just kind of stare at them for a turn, but like maybe that's what they want, and like they're trying to like use this opening to stick a Jace. No waste is probably correct. Because if I draw land, I can like Jitte equip swing if my opponent taps out for something. I'm just gonna pass. So in order to Jace, my opponent would need a fetch land. A fetch land would give them 4 lands in play, plus something to eat with Deathrite Shaman, because of this Thalia attacks here. What the hell? Alright. I'm going to expose this Thalia to a Force of Will blue card in order to save myself damage from the Deathrite Shaman attacking in. I think this is a game where my opponent is going to try to tempo me out before I draw anything that matters. I think that's where this game is going. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. This isn't a real deck. I'm sorry for subjecting you to this. This is fine. We are going to get Sword of Fire and Ice here. And I think this is a point where I go ahead and just cast this card. This fuels the Deathrite, but the Deathrite seems to be on Murder Me plan. And I have a tough choice here between get Plateau, so I can cast P and K if I draw it, or get Plains, so I have second white natural white source for if I draw Magus. I'm going to say that P and K is more important, because if I get a Recruiter, I will be recruitering for P and K. Don't you bring that K-Command evil on me. Don't you do it. Okay. So, if my opponent K-commands me, they're going to K-command me, blow up sword, deals 2 to Stoneforge. But on the off chance that they choose deal 2 to sword, make me discard, I'm going to play this for Schadenport right now. Alright, so this is a Snapcaster Mage Diabolic Edict moment. That's fine. Uno. Snapcaster Abrupt Decay. Sure. Yet another womp womp moment. I agree. So, am I out of lands? I'm out of lands and graveyards. They are out of lands and graveyards. But now that I have this port, I think I want to constrict my opponent's ability to cast a big Haymaker. So I will give them Deathrite mana at the cost of, like, easily being able to hold up something like a K-Command or Snapcaster again. And I'm going to port them off of the island so that they can't just use the mana to Deathrite train me. Alright, not the best draw. But a draw we'll accept. Because we don't have any choice. This is not a terrible draw. So my opponent will drain me with Deathrite. In response, I will remove the Deathrite. See, Phil, if you had filled your deck with Goblin Ringleaders, we'd feel better about this. What's the soldier one that does it? Is it, is that Daru Warchief? No, Daru Warchief's the Lord. Whatever the one Soldier Stompy plays, that would be more reasonable. Enlistment Officer, yes, there we go, thank you. Alright, we are on a 5-turn clock to go and beat a Baleful Strix. Think we can do that. Might be wrong, though. Hold on, what just happened? Oh, Rise. Okay, so they Rise, return Snapcaster Mage, and Baleful Strix. Okay, that's cute. That's cute. Alright, this Flicker Wisp is not very good against this board. I still probably just need to play it out, though. Unfortunately. My life total is in such jeopardy. If I don't play it out, then I put myself into a situation where, like, Snapcaster Bolt plus Baleful Strix attack puts me at 1. And I'll just port my opponent's red source now to force them into the position where they do that. Yeah, we are definitely in, like, a PNK or bust scenario. Alright, that was just Lightning Bolt my face rather than my Flicker Wisp. Do they just have another removal spell for that? No, they don't. Why, yes, I will block. I believe I will block. I guess if I don't block, I leave myself the option to draw Umezawa's Jitte as an out that I wouldn't otherwise have. But it's just Jitte. It is just that one card, because like I can't make a Sword of Fire and Ice attack if I don't take this, because the Sword of Fire and Ice can only take down one body. No, the Jitte is in my graveyard already, so this is a fine block. We're going to tick this up to 3 in case we draw Recruiter of the Guard and can just like go ham and produce a lot of bodies. Yeah, we have a Mother of Runes. Yes, 1 and 2 is basically the same, but one of those numbers lets us survive another Baleful Strix hit, and one of them doesn't. Alright. Alright. So, if we think back, early on in the game, I made a play where I exposed a Thalia to a removal spell at the... rationalizing that this game was probably going to be about me getting aggroed out by creatures if I lost, and that's exactly what happened. So, like, yes, I did lose that Thalia to a Lightning Bolt. Yes, that Thalia could have done other things if it stuck around, and I held up that protection. But that Thalia saved me 3 points of life, and might have saved me more if my opponent didn't have the removal spell. So, like, I think that was fine. Alright, so in this matchup, we tend to go and bring in cards that let us grind more, and we take out Swords to Plowshares since, like, there are very few things we actually want to remove. I take out Phyrexian Revoker because it's not reliable enough to, like, stick around and do its thing. And then it gets a little bit harder from here with this build, because I'm so geared to beat this matchup with like all these Wingmares and like the Magus of the Moons and such. So I think I will probably only bring in one, or I will probably only bring in... Actually, hold on. So this isn't normal check pile. This is punishing Dak. So I might need to rethink that. The Revokers might have a little bit of extra added utility here, since it can hit those Daks. So my opponent probably has both Dak and Jace. But again, they're still running the same sort of stuff that check pile is running, so like the matchup is essentially the same. And I should probably use that knowledge. So I'd rather have Cataclysm over Revoker. I'd rather have all of these cards over Revoker. So I think this is fine. I'm going to think about it for a second and like think if I want to like trim a land more than anything else that's here. It could be like trim a Flicker Wisp to keep a Revoker in the deck that I can Recruiter for. That sounds reasonable, actually. Sand is great. I will have to decide whether or not I want to play Rest in Peace or Thalia on turn 2. So my opponent hasn't showed me like any cards this game yet. I have no information about their hand. In the absence of information, I should probably just play Thalia. But there's some chance that I lose this Rest in Peace if I don't play it now, because like I might want to like follow up Recruiter of the Guard for Magus or something like that, depending on my opponent's lines. So like I might get into a one or the other situation with these. But I'm going to go ahead and jam the Thalia, because if my opponent doesn't have a counterspell and they just have a removal spell, it is their whole next turn to deal with it. So here we're probably seeing a brainstorm to find a piece of counter magic. Which is nice, because this is something that, you know, walks into a potential Magus of the Moon. Actually, so thinking back, maybe Magus of the Moon was supposed to come out. Like, it's awkward because it's bad against Punishing Fire on its own, but good against Grove of the Burn Willows. I'm going to give the opponent the chance to remove this Thalia. I know that sucks, but I want to resolve this Rest in Peace before my opponent can do anything with their graveyard. I want to just cut off that zone. Oh geez, opponent does not have a removal spell? Why did they keep this hand? Am I just going to get like fucking Dread of Knighted or something like that? Or did my opponent just keep like a Punishing Fire heavy hand? Alright, I want everyone to appreciate what just happened. So my opponent cast Fall, and I want to make sure that I understand how that card works. So Fall is you reveal 2 cards at random, right? Yep. You reveal 2 cards at random, and you discard each non-land card revealed this way. I had two lands in my hand and 2 non-lands in my hand, and my opponent hit both of the non-lands, forcing me to discard all of them. That is some shit. And at this point, I am just going to port my opponent off of things that matter. I am going to port them off of their black mana. That's probably what matters the most. I'm kind of hoping that my opponent will Abrupt Decay this Rest in Peace so that I can... Alright, we will bounce this Thalia. You'll just probably, like, fucking perfect Rise Falls and get it. Alright, now. Alright. Do you have the Force for it on the way back down? No! Alright. This is going better than expected. Yeah, Eric, I think my opponent's hand is a little top-heavy or otherwise awkward in some way. But if we just keep drawing lands, I can't capitalize on that. I feel... I'm not going to play out this Rest in Peace yet. You know, I really want my opponent to use a resource on this. This is my opponent's life right now. This is their life, chat. Or more planes, that's fine too. Alright, you have Dak Faden, the greatest thief in the multiverse, who will probably just start looting through all your stuff. I'll be... Alright, my opponent pitches 2 lands. I'm going to go ahead and fetch to thin my deck here. Just 100% purely thin. Okay, so I can Stoneforge and then play a piece of equipment, but that exposes it to getting dacked. So instead I can Rest in Peace, Thalia, and Stoneforge while still holding up Caracas. So I think I'm going to do all of those things. I'm just going to double check. So this is Rest in Peace, this is Thalia, this is Stoneforge, still holding up. And I can get Sword of Fire and Ice. And Sword of Fire and Ice would give me 5 damage to hit next turn. Alternatively, I can get Batterskull, and I can go, like, put in Batterskull, equip Batterskull in the same turn as well. Isn't Port better than the second Rip? Oh yeah, actually that's probably correct. Yes, so we are, if my opponent plays another creature, we are not going to just like ram this out. And we will just like hold the sword in hand. And then just like peck at the deck with these 2 creatures. This game has gotten very interesting. At some point soon, I might want to just start holding some lands in case I draw my Cataclysm. Alright. Well. Okay. So I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. At the 7 mana price point, I can use 5 to cast Cataclysm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And also vial in Sword of Fire and Ice. But there's some awkwardness here. Because I kind of want to keep the Thalia. Because it's really good post-Cataclysm. But I don't want to put this Sword of Fire and Ice into play if my opponent has a Force of Will plus blue card. Or just Force of Will. No, they need Force plus blue card because they can't cast it for regular mana due to Thalia. I can also not play around Force of Will and bounce Thalia and just hold the equipment rather than recast. Or no, if I bounce Thalia, I can cast Cataclysm for 4 mana, keeping Stoneforge and 2 lands open. Oh, that seems sweet. If my opponent has Force, they probably have Force blue card. So I'm probably not playing around a lot by going and like trying to play around exactly them having Force but not blue card. So I think I'm going to do the line that I just talked about of like bounce Thalia to save the Thalia and then Cataclysm them. And I'll probably just keep Caracas here if I still have the Thalia in my hand. Alright. Culligan's command, targeting me, making me discard a card, and getting rid of the Stoneforge. Okay, so I see, here's the choice. So, like, I have the choice between, do I want this Sword of Fire and Ice, or do I want the Thalia? And that is a tough choice. I think I'm going to discard the sword so that I can play Thalia post Cataclysm and keep Caracas. It was really close, though. I will keep a Caracas and a Rest in Peace. You will keep a Deathrite Shaman, probably a Grove, and that's it. Oh, nope, Underground Sea. I will redeploy Thalia. Hello, and good luck. Yeah, Goblin Lackey, I agree. I mean, I obviously did it. I think keeping the Thalia is better. And now they are going to just feel this, like, slow, terrible death at the hand of Thalia over the next 6 turns. That Squire is a lot of text and a lot of colors, too. So now we have 2 layers of protection up for this Thalia. Yeah, Rip is doing work. So the rest of this game is just like, how many times do I need to click the 1 button in order to win? It's a lot. Can we even cast Magus now? Yeah, we still have 1 more plateau in there, right? Like, we're only down 2 plateau? Yeah, we're down 2 plateau. So there's 1 more plateau in there and 2 Cavern of Souls. How did I get down to 6? I don't feel like we've done that much. I guess I must have talked about a lot of bullshit in game 1. Phil, why are you playing a single-player match? Great question. What the hell did I talk about forever? Did I just, like, derp around for 5 minutes and drink Dr. Pepper while spacing out? That's very possible. Alright, my opponent did not shuffle. So, I can just protect and bash in for 2 and put my opponent dead no matter what the next turn. Or I can continue playing as is. My opponent probably has a land, since they kept with their Ponder. But, like, what beats this board of Thalia and Mom? I don't really have time to think about that, so I'm just going to attack in and continue playing safe. Alright, Opponent double blocks. So my opponent can have something like Dread of Night here, which would be super bad. After brainstorming, they should just be dead on board. Because they can only produce 1 mana. Oh, shit. My opponent did not take the 2 the last turn. Wow, that's on me, chat. If I blow this game here for doing that, that is 100% on me. Wow, I don't believe I just did that. Liliana of the Veil. Okay, not punished. Alright, each player chooses and sacrifices a creature. I will sacrifice Mother of Runes. So I'll attack my opponent directly. They have to block with Deathrite Shaman. Alright, now my opponent has to answer 2 different creature cards this turn or die. That answers 1. I'll discard backup Thalia here. I'm gonna go for the kill. I didn't really feel like they had it, because if they had a removal spell, they would have just like used it on their turn so that I couldn't like Caracas bounce the Thalia. Alright, so I was on the play on that one and I win. So, game 2 win with Cataclysm. Yeah, they are just making me run out the clock. Like I have literal no idea where those minutes went though. I think I'm gonna board in an extra Revoker. And out something else. Flickerwish doesn't have a lot of targets in this matchup. Like, I also don't think this is like a play patiently in Flickerwisp game. Maybe for that reason I was supposed to board out Cataclysm too. Sounds fine. I will keep this. Sure. Alright, Abrupt Decay Thalia, that's fine. So I realize that the Batterskull is not great in the face of the Baleful Strix, but I have this second Stoneforge Mystic, so I want to incentivize my opponent to go and remove the first Stoneforge Mystic. And they might not be able to remove both of these. Oop, Toxic Deluge, sure. Alright. In the face of that, it's probably Crusader time. My opponent doesn't have red mana currently. Let's get him. My opponent now needs to ponder for a red source, or this Mirror Crusader just threatens to take over the game. Alternatively, they can have Diabolic Edict to get it off the board, or Liliana of the Veil. But if they don't have one of those things, it's bad. Alright, fine, you can have a Pernicious Deed. We'll revoke that, I don't care. It is kind of tense. This is fun, right? Like, this is what we enjoy about Magic, is these moments like this. This would be a devastating K command. Dak, are you gonna take my Revoker? Sure. If I attack in, my opponent blocks with the Revoker, and then the deed is live. So I think I'm not going to attack. And I'm just gonna like slow things down just a touch. So I probably messed up that last turn. Ooh, geez. That's pretty good. Alright, so my opponent just Fate Seals me. Okay, I probably need to attack in. I don't want to attack in, but I probably need to attack in. It turns on the deed, which is rough, and I might not be able to beat that. No, I can just like play P and K and intend on like going wide in the air. That might work. Ooh, okay, so there's some weird lines that actually might happen here. I'm probably going to get, like, savagely blown out, but I'm going to make my opponent see it. So the blowout line is use Jace, bounce my Phyrexian Revoker back to my hand, use Deed, take the 4-for-1, and then let me revoke one of the walkers. But that's a really weird line, and I don't know that my opponent is going to see it. They do not see it, so we have hope. So I can currently just like P and K and shoot my opponent for a couple of turns in a row. So I go like Thopter attack in at them. Whichever one they block with Baleful Strix, I just fling at their face. That puts them to 7. The next Thopter... Oh, okay, they're swinging in. I will just take that. Okay, oh geez, Snapcaster Toxic Deluge. Don't know that we're gonna beat that, but we'll try. Double Pernicious Deed with Dak on board is pretty rough. Can you beat Magus? You can probably beat Magus with that board. So if they can beat Magus, then I need to double Stoneforge. The issue is, now that they have this deed up and double Planeswalker, it's unlikely that my opponent is going to tap low enough that I can actually get anything done. And the DAC means that I can't just like flop this Batterskull into play and expect it to take over the game. I also have my Revokers down, so I probably can't just get there by like ripping a Revoker off the top for the deed again. Do they have a Punishing Fire? No. Oh, but they have a Leovold. Okay. Everything's awful. Everything's worse. I might be able to... Oh, okay. Targeting me? Oh. Shit. Okay, I see how that works. That's strong. Alright, they have the Leovold Dak combo. I can keep this Leovold off the battlefield by bouncing it. And then Magus, nope, I can't because that won't work either. Alright, how do I win? I don't. So I'm just going to keep myself dying in the immediate future by doing this. It just, like, keeps me from taking a couple of points of damage. And, like, our only out probably involves a Cataclysm at this point. So keeping that in mind, we're just going to throw this Magus into play, make my opponent deal with it, try to rip Cataclysm, and then somehow kill my opponent in 1 minute and 14 seconds. Woo! But, like, even if we rip Cataclysm, there's still the issue of dealing with this Pernicious Deed. And my opponent should probably just be fate sealing me off of Cataclysm. They probably can't lose if they just do that. Or alternatively, like, just, like, bounce my Magus of the Moon and time me out. This is awful. Alright, I think this ship has probably sailed on these artifacts due to Dak and Pernicious Deed. So let's try to hit land and go double spell. Nope. Alright. So I'll go Mom. I'll go Wingmare. I'll bounce Dak. Or bounce Leovold. Again, doing this at a suboptimal time for F6 value. Yep. Alright, that's not irrelevant. I overpaid, so we're not boarding my opponent. Alright, I feel like I can safely concede at this point. So, I know our clock got really low there, but I feel confident in saying that we did not lose this game to the clock there. My opponent going Deluge into Snapcaster Deluge, as well as that Pernicious Deed, followed by double Planeswalker Punishing Fire backup. Like, that is a recipe for disaster for us. So we weren't getting through that one. Three sweepers will do in just about any D&T deck. So we were on the draw there, and we lost. All right, I can now breathe at a normal pace and look and see what the chat had to say. Looks like chat was holding their breath as well for most of that. Most of the comments say it's tense. So for anyone who has tuned in the last couple of minutes, this is not a normal stream. This is a bonus stream brought to you in part by Eric XH, who bribed me to play another league right as I was about to go to bed. So, bribery. It works. Politics. Thraben University. Wherever. So we're playing my normal red-white list, except one Cavern of Souls has been replaced with one more planes than normal. I won the devil. My opponent's name is Silvergill Lord. Are they a Merfolk player? I play Merfolk in Modern, so maybe. In the absence of data, I'm going to keep a land-heavy but reasonable hand. The ability to go Mom into Thalia on the play is not to be underestimated against a lot of decks of the format. If my opponent is actually on Legacy Merfolk as well, this is not a great hand. Probably is not 100%, and it looks like our opponent is on a Delver deck. So, the good news is that we get to, like, run a Thalia out into, like, potential days and not have to worry about it since we drew the backup. But now this Thalia lives forever, which is sort of a two-sided sword. It's interesting that my opponent has a basic island, though, in a Delver deck, and a basic mountain. Okay, so I guess this is like blue-red Delver, not Grixis. So my opponent natural flipped this Delver, which means bad things for me. But my opponent doesn't have a cantrip to set up this second Delver this turn. Could still be Nick Fit. Just saying. Blue-red Nick Fit with Delvers to buy time in the early game. Basic Plains, thank you very much for subscribing. I do appreciate the support. and I'll be in touch with you maybe the beginning of next week to talk about borrowing those true names to stream some shenanigans. Alright, opponent getting real saucy with these flyers. I might not be able to race them without drawing some removal. So they get 4 in the air next turn, potentially 7 or more the turn that follows. Do I need to crash in with Mom in order to race? So if my opponent flips the Delver, they have 7. They have me on a 2-turn clock. If my opponent doesn't flip the Delver, then they have me on a 3-turn clock, assuming no prowess triggers. But with 2 spells 1 turn, 1 spell the other turn, I'm still dead. With 5 damage, I have my opponent on a 4-turn clock, and I can't actually change that. That's unfortunate. So what can I do about this? I can crash in with everything, bounce Thalia, replay Thalia, so that Thalia can block, and then I can push an extra point of damage. If my opponent removes one of my guys, I'm in really bad shape. But if they remove one of my guys, then that's a bolt that's not aimed at my face. Yep. We battle. Note that I am not going to play around price of progress this game. Since I am not currently winning this race, I can't afford to play around price, and I need to play around the days that I 100% know is in my opponent's hand. Alright, so here's a Brainstorm. This flips the Delver and gives a prowess trigger, so that means I'm going to take 8 this turn and go to 5, and then I am 100% dead to the Delvers unless I draw a removal spell or a flyer. Still probably dead even if I draw a flyer. If my opponent's smart, they'll play around a Flicker Wisp by putting back spell on top of their deck. If my opponent has a land, they get to land Gataxian Probe and make it so I take 9 this turn. Nope, they're not doing that. Oh, because they had a Swift Spear too. Okay. We're dead on board to the Flying Idiots. Alright. So playing against Blue-Red Delver. We're on the play, and we lost to Silver Gill Lord. So game 1, loss to Creature Aggro. So that was a game where if my opponent had more spells rather than creatures, we might have reasonably been able to win that. But since they were heavy on the creature side of the equation and they could ignore the Thalia attacks, it was very difficult for us to win. We just didn't have time. Alright, so we're going to board in early interaction and things that are good against prowess, and we'll board out the P and Ks because they are relatively slow, and that's not where we want to be in this matchup. Similarly, we will board out recruiters and Phyrexian Revokers. If my opponent shows us multiple copies of Grim Lavamancer, we might bring the Revokers back in, but most of the rest of these cards are just going to be better than Revoker. The only thing that's questionable is the Magus of the Moon. Magus of the Moon is not the best against my opponent, and maybe should just come out. But sometimes I might take my opponent off of double blue, which matters if they are playing True Name Nemesis, so it's not just dead. I could hedge by boarding something like Relic Warder in case they have Sulfuric Vortex. And it also could hit random things they're probably not playing, like Eidolon. I could also just play Crusader as something that closes the game quickly, even though it's bad against the bolts. This may or may not be better than just the Revokers shutting off potential Grim Lavamancers. Actually, it might not be better than just... No, I don't have time for Recruiter. Maybe I do if I'm playing more removal spells. Like, I'm not in love with the Revokers, but Recruiter is really slow. I'll play the Revokers. I would like to play first. This hand's fine. It's a little awkward because I'm not getting like maximum Stoneforge value necessarily, because any Stoneforge I draw from here on out is just effectively dead. But uncounterable Thalia into Stoneforge seems like a fine start to this matchup. Yeah. This seems like a very bad spot to brainstorm. The only thing that my opponent could draw that they could play is Gataxian Probe. So I don't know that, like, this is a spot where they're supposed to brainstorm. Delver? Oh wow, this Thalia just gets to live. How great it is to be a Thalia. Alright, we now have 3 pieces of equipment, active Thalia, that is protected. Feeling okay. Alright, my opponent flips to Force. I don't know if you can see this, but the Moto clock is doing some really funky timing things. It's ticking down by like 2 seconds at a time. Yeah, so Price of Progress is definitely a problematic card. We're not afraid of most other things. And what's nice is this Stoneforge Mystic is uncounterable. We say no, we have all of our equipment already. And I just want to do this to, like, dump the Batterskull into play. Or force my opponent to keep pointing removal spells at the Stoneforge, at which point, like, a turn or two down the line, I will just be able to, like, Jitte and equip while leaving Karaka's protection up. But I didn't want to just tap out for the Jitte. Yeah, see, like, now I've locked my opponent in this weird spot where they're throwing bolts at my Stoneforges rather than me. You like swap? Do you mean Sword of War and Peace? Because, like, boy, do I love Sword of War and Peace. I know my opponent has Force of Will, so I'm going to Path to Exile this right now. It might give them an extra mana because they do have basics in their deck, but I do not want this to get forced. I feel really good about my position. Like, as soon as I connect with one of these pieces of equipment, we're probably done. On my next turn, I will probably attack in with Thalia and tap out for Jitte. Make my opponent remove a Thalia, and then just, like, start playing the game of, like, deploy Thalia after Thalia. So just on the Sword of War and Peace note, that is definitely one of my personal pet cards. I've had a lot of success with the card, you know, locally at GPs and at, like, Star City events. I sing the card's praises. It's not the right card for every 75, but it's very frequently quite good. Yeah, opponent needs something like a True Name to go and stabilize their board, or something like a Price of Progress to, like, punish me if I keep playing non-basics. So this is a good draw. I'm going to go ahead and play Jitte. My opponent showed me a Force of Will, but they might have just put that back. Which they did. Now, my opponent can still have, like, a Smash to Smithereens or something like that, so just because it's Jitte resolved doesn't mean we're out of the clear. Okay, so there's the Force on top of their library. They will probably fetch it away here. No, they want the Force. Interesting. Hey, thank you very much for subscribing. I really appreciate that. It's been a real good night for the stream. Not gonna lie to you. I'm happy that you're able to see me live. I won't usually be streaming this late, but I'm able to be bribed just like any other man. My price is $20 apparently, so I'm cheap. Eric bribed me to do a bonus stream with Red White tonight, so here we are. I will go either until I finish this league or until I feel like I start misplaying and the quality of my content drops. Oh geez, I'm at like 18 subs now? Holy cow. I do need to update the banner. I will probably just update that before the next stream at this point, though. I wanna value my time towards playing rather than doing, like, the small housekeeping things like that. Okay, so how do I want to do this? So I pay to equip Jitte. My opponent will, like, bolt or do something to deal with this. And then I'll redeploy a second Thalia. And so this is fine. So, like, any number of things can blank me here. Alright. Smash is rough. Alright. I am already dead to a price of progress, so no need to play around it. Alright, so we are representing lethal if we draw a land. We are still representing lethal if we draw a land. Yeah, the Storm Chaser is scary. That one point of haste damage might really make a difference. Like, the 2 points over 2 turns matters a lot. Alright, we did not draw a land. So do we have any outs now? We have no outs. That is unfortunate. Yeah, the Storm Chaser having haste there made all the difference. So like if this was just like some 2/2 idiot that didn't have haste, then like I could just play out the sword and then live if the Delver doesn't flip. Womp womp. Yeah, it was really close. Like, some things didn't break our way that time, but that's okay. I think Blue-Red Delver can be a little tricky for the Red-White build. So there were a couple of things that went wrong for us in that match. So Triple Thalia was bad. Drawing all of that equipment when we had a bunch of Stone Forges was bad. But in the early turns of the game, we had sort of a demanding lead that we just could not capitalize on it and close things off with. And that's okay, that sort of thing happens. I was feeling relatively good about our chances for most of that game, though. But, like, my opponent drawing Delver, followed by Brainstorm to flip into Delver, Storm Chaser, that was a really strong turn. Yes, it has not been a strong showing tonight. That is for sure. You know, but I 5-0'd a couple of days ago, so, like, so be it. You know, this happens. Sorry. So for anyone who wasn't here earlier, we played against a Death and Taxes player earlier who was like probably in their first Moto League with the deck or something like that. And they made like misplay after misplay after misplay. And for the life of us, we could not capitalize on it because I was on like 1 white source, 2 colorless sources, and like I'm staring down like a whole bunch of cards in my hand that I just can't cast. And my opponent made a ton of like terrible play and sideboarding decisions, and they let me stay in a game that I had no business being in, but just could not seal the deal. Yeah, I basically think that we lost all of the matches of the previous league due to having Spirit of the Labyrinth in our deck. Alright. Fudrud. Don't recognize this name. My opponent plays Jeskai Tempo in Standard. So we know my opponent plays Standard. So they've got that going against them. White bordered island. My opponent is a monster. Alright. Fud Rud. So Island Brainstorm is a very ambiguous opening. You know, opponent can be anything from Ant to Miracles here. Brainstorming in response to the Aether Vial, you know, maybe indicates that they're actually looking for a counterspell, but we don't know that for sure. Betting on High Tide. High Tide with Daze. My opponent might be something like a Reanimator deck or something like that. Could be some sort of combo deck that is running Daze as backup as well. A little hard to tell. My opponent shuffles with their Ponder. I would love to draw up Thalia. Thalia is probably pretty good at whatever my opponent is doing. I would love to see something that gives me a little more information about what my opponent is doing. I think I want to close this game quickly. I want to get this Batterskull. If they are some deck that has removal of some nature, then giving them the opportunity to remove this will let them like play something that lets me know what they are. Right now we have just seen like mono-generic cards. So are you Grixis control? Is that what I'm gathering from all of this? Like a Grixis Young Pyromancer deck that like happens to have some dazes? Wish I had red so I could just jam this Magus. So basic planes, I see that you're saying Delver. Oh god, it's just like blue-red Delver on an atrocious draw? How can you keep a hand that's that bad? Like, my opponent did nothing turns like 1, 2, 3. That is not where you want to be with blue-red Delver. Like, my life total is at 18 and my opponent has 2 cards left. It is absolutely terrifying for my opponent. I now have to decide how quickly or slowly I want to play this. I think I want to just remove my opponent's Monastery Swift Spear this turn no matter what. So I can, well, I'm doing this, I'm playing that for sure. And I don't think I need to play around Daze at this point. Like, my opponent already had one. I don't feel like they have another. So I can just, like, play Flicker Wisp and Vial, Flicker Wisp a land, and then Swords to Plowshares. And that deploys a lot of cards. And if my opponent has a Daze, they probably just Daze the Vial, which is nice. Magus of the Moon. All-Star. champion of the people. Not great in the face of double basic land. Alright, we are now one land away from just slamming a Batter Skull and making my opponent sad forever. We're a few turns away from viling in this Magus of the Moon and doing nothing. Kenny, don't you go and start comparing my good friend Magus of the Moon to that heathen Spirit of the Labyrinth. Oh man, I'm at 18 and my opponent's play for the turn was pass. How bad does that make you feel? Alright, so we play a Revoker. We'll play the Grim... We'll put it on Grim Lavamancer, which my opponent probably doesn't have. Not in game 1. You float that red mana. You show me who's boss. I am not arrogant enough to name Abandoned Hope before my opponent is 100% dead. Like, say my opponent actually did have Grim Lavamancer and they played Grim Lavamancer on this board. Like, I would get to peck them for 5 and then the Lavamancer would just, like, start taking things over. So, I don't think we were quite in Abandoned Hope territory. Alright, opponent has just thrown a Chain Lightning at my face to assert dominance. I will throw 5 damage at their face to assert more dominance. I am the alpha male in this situation. Fear me. Boy, opponent, I bet you wish you used Chain Lightning on one of my threats instead of my face. See, like, if you had pointed a Chain Lightning at my other guy last turn, you would have saved yourself three more life. Would like to use Aetherwild's ability. YOLO. Show me what you're working with. Stone, cold, nothing. And we're going to just play this out here now to play around my opponent having something like a True Name Nemesis that they could cast off of blue-blue, but not otherwise. Goblin Lackey, I haven't been looking at the lunar calendar, but like maybe there's something going on there, you know? Getting close to a full moon and everyone wants to play Badlands. That might be it. That's my current theory. Alright, so we did these 5 in before, and we shipped Recruiters, PNK, and Magus, and sort of begrudgingly accepted that Revoker might be fine. I'm not 100% sure on this Revoker slot here. Like, maybe it's actually just worse than something like Mirren Crusader or Recruiter of the Guard. Chat reaming me here for my basic land choice on Moto. Choice, that is, default. Rough. I'm gonna run back the Revokers. If my opponent actually has like an Is It Staticaster or Grim Lavamancer, it's good to have. So we'll keep this hand, which doesn't have a removal spell, but has a an aggressive curve otherwise. This is a hand where I'll probably just like fetch basic planes from turn 1. We have no white in our deck, and I want to play around Price of Progress to whatever extent that I can. It's not always possible to. Alright, opponent F6 their turn, just showing me that they have no counter magic whatsoever, which is really good to know. Yeah, the Containment Priest art is rough. It is, yeah. I've said my thoughts on those borders many times. They are not positive thoughts. Alright, my opponent is having a draw that looks like it's going to beat my draw. I don't know for sure, but when my opponent leads on double creature, I am very fearful for my future. But that is actually a very important draw. The mom can hold the Swift Spear down, but I couldn't hold down the Storm Chaser Mage. The Swords changes that. So this turn I have a choice. I can Stoneforge Mystic, get Batterskull, or I can just Swords. My opponent could deal a lot of damage to me with this Storm Chaser Mage, and if I just remove the Storm Chaser Mage, I might buy myself time to make these equipment cards matter. You like Swords and Waste? So I can Swords and Waste, which I sort of like. I was thinking about playing around Daze by just like playing a land and doing that, but if I just waste first, then that plays around Daze too. So I guess that's fine. Yes, there is something to be said for giving them more time to draw a counter as well. I also don't want to let them untap in case they have something stupid like a Spell Pierce. Oh my gosh, Moxall. I love you. And all the shit you give me. Alright. I apparently have some shopping to do later. Yeah, so like they fetched to get this basic island to play around Wasteland, but in doing so they might very possibly brainstorm lock themselves, which is not to be underestimated. Like, that's very scary. And I'm 100% willing to just like block here and soak up the damage with Mom. If my opponent has a bolt and they bolt this in response, that's fine. Like, this is 6 damage that I have saved myself with this Mother of Runes. A-okay with all of that. Phil, what do I do for work? I am a Latin teacher. I teach middle and high school Latin. And over the summer, I teach a spoken Latin program for Virginia's Latin Academy. It's a 1-month-long intensive program. It's super neat for sort of like the top 1% of Virginia's Latin students. So this year, during the regular school year, I am teaching Latin 1 and 2, and then for Latin Academy I do the spoken Latin as well as I run sort of a 45-person live-action board game that simulates Roman economics and trade as well. Is Latin common in the States? It is common on my side of the country. So I live in Virginia. Sort of the eastern seaboard has a ton of Latin programs, just because like a lot of the schools around here are interested in sort of that like college prep scene, you know, sending people off to good schools, that sort of stuff. So the Latin has stayed strong out here, whereas like I'm originally from the Midwest, and it was very uncommon to see Latin out there. Yeah, Latin has had a relatively big resurgence in, I don't know, let's say the last 5 to 10 years. It's picked up in popularity a lot as, like, college admissions are getting tougher and tougher, and people start caring more about things like ACTs and SATs and whatnot. And Latin is like cheating for those sorts of tests. Salve, quid agis? Algo bene, sed fessus sum. Alright. Opponent showing strength in the face of Batterskull. So I will let them, you know, blow up this with Smash to Smithereens, but then I get, like, Jitte and Equip on my next turn. So this is all fine. While my opponent is tapped out, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this Swift Spear, because I think it has the possibility to do more than 4 damage over the course of the rest of this game. This does not play around my opponent having, like, a bolt to just, like, take the Stoneforge off the table. But I think I want to just, like, make my opponent point spells at my face, because in order to kill me, they would need, like, their 3 remaining cards to be like land, Price of Progress, and some other thing that deals damage. Otherwise, they need to point something at this Stoneforge or the Jitte to kill it and get off the table. Ex Cathedra, yeah. I'm originally from Illinois. I saw almost no Latin at all growing up, like in any capacity. Yeah, in the States here, it's very common for middle and high schools to offer like 3 to 4 different languages, and most high schools require a few years of language for graduation requirements. Yeah, and I'm not going to use Jitte counters to like try to shrink this Storm Chaser Mage or anything like that. I'm just going to like use these to gain life. Alright. I will probably end up using a counter to get rid of that Delver at some point. Okay, that's a nice draw. Batterskull's gone, but that can get Sword of Fire and Ice. Attack with both of these. It's now 4 counters on the Jitte. We'll use 1 to get rid of the Delver. And how do I lose from here? I probably just don't lose at all. My opponent would need some really ridiculous draws to make me lose. Does my opponent's mana matter at all? I guess they could stick something like a True Name. I would care about that. So I'll go ahead and waste a Volk, port them off of a mana source. I don't think my opponent has Fire Blast in their deck since they've like so aggressively fetched for basic island over the last couple of games. Yeah, Goblin Lackey. Like there's certainly some aspect of that where like you know, a lot of the schools that would have been founded in, you know, like foundations of Americans times are coming from the European grammar tradition, where like it was very expected that you knew multiple languages, that you were well versed in like both Greek and Latin. And so like a lot of those aspects of grammarian training then transfer over to their schools. So like that is 100% correct. Alright, I just like did not write down anything for that whole match. Alright, so Lure Delver on the draw, win, on the draw, win. So narrowly get there with equipment both games. Alright. We've updated the spreadsheet. I'm going to take 30 seconds and run to the restroom again before I start up the next one. Yeah, back when I was at the University of Maryland for grad school, I TA'd a course called Are We Rome that looked at some of the like overlaps between like modern America and Roman society. And in part of that course, we looked at like some of the like educational aspects of the beginning of, you know, education in the Americas, and there is a big part of that that is rooted in the classical tradition. So if you go and you look at like some of our original political documents and ideas, it's very clear like what portions of that drew on Greece versus Rome, and like where some of that is shared. This is an interesting hand. We'll talk about it momentarily. S063, who plays Ant. Oh geez, that's from April of 2017 though. That's really old data to rely on. I'm gonna go ahead and keep this on the play though. It is a hand that where like we get to like hide what we are with Windswept Heath. So my opponent might not know I'm D&T. If they do know I'm D&T, they probably name Thalia first over Revoker if they're going to like blind Cabal Therapy me. Yeah, Goblin Lackey. It was a pretty awesome class. It was a really good experience. Although most of the time, I TA'd classical mythology instead. That was a one-time thing. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna not hide the fact that I have these wastelands. My opponent like isn't 100% Ant, but I'm gonna just play this Revoker here. And we're going for broke. We're going to name Lion's Eye Diamond rather than something like Lotus Petal that has crossover, because if my opponent is Ant, then this is the highest upside play that I can make. Are we Rome TLDL? Probably yes. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into politics because like as a teacher, one thing I try to do is like let people develop their own opinions. I don't just want to, you know, tell them, "Hey, look what's going on, you know, look at these things that are happening, you know. You probably need to form an opinion on that based on your own knowledge." And so I don't just want to like pipe off my own strong opinions on things. I tend to just let them be. But the past year with like everything that has gone on in the last election cycle, you know, and many of the things that we're seeing now, definitely feel eerily familiar. Oh yeah, Goblin Lackey. Like I'm not going to talk about, you know, all the details there, but it's very real, and it is funny in the like, oh god, too real sort of way. Alright, my opponent therapies me. I think it's likely that my opponent will either name Recruiter of the Guard or Stoneforge Mystic. Since, like, if I had a Thalia, I would just play a Thalia. So it's a good name on their end. Alright. Basic Planes, you have pointed out the obvious there. Sometimes when I'm streaming, you know, I kind of get caught up in the moment and I'm talking and I was enjoying talking about Rome and, you know, forgot that my opponent just knew all the cards in my hand. Yeah, so I believe that when you don't know your opponent's hand, Cabal Therapy is one of the most interesting and skill-testing cards in the entire format. Gataxian Probe is training wheels. Alright, so my opponent's going off. They're trying to. The Revoker on LED may or may not be enough disruption to actually stop this. It is appearing the answer is no. But my opponent might be forced to try an ad nauseum line, which is not guaranteed. Oh yeah, Kenny, that is a dance I love. So that is probably a duress purely to build storm count. And so we win this one. Opponent just wanted to put the fear in me, and I respect that decision. Opponent trolled me good. Alright, so we're playing against Ants. We're on the play, and we win. So we got game 1, turn 2 Revoker, turn 4 Thalia. We'll be on the draw for the next one. It's a little harder on the draw. So if my opponent starts storming off or something like that, I'll talk about my thoughts on Legacy ban list. Okay, so these 6 cards are coming in for sure. Relic Warder and Crusader are maybes. Relic Warder can snag a piece of artifact mana that my opponent plays out early, or something like a Dread of Night. So what's bad? P&K, pretty bad. Very slow. I'll probably cut at least 1 piece of equipment. And I'm definitely cutting Swords to Plowshares. That card's just dead. That would give me 6 for 6. And then I have the question of, like, do I want these Relic Warders or Crusaders? Flicker Wisp is a little bit anemic in this matchup. I often shave 1. That would give me this Relic Warder. And then I have to question if I want just Crusader as just a guy who beats down relatively well. Is that better than, like, say, Stoneforge number 4, for example? And it probably is. While Stoneforge is fine in this matchup, and, like, having it in the deck does, like, some amount of utility, it's not great, and you really don't want to play it early on. Look, man, if my opponent boards into Pack Rats, they can just have the win. Pack Rat's unbeatable. I played a lot of that card in Limited. That was one of the few sets that, like, I randomly played Limited for, because I was in grad school, and everyone was, like, drafting RTR all the time. Hey, turn 2. Land, Dark Writ is a good start to getting an Obliterator in play. I'm going to go ahead and ship this one. I can probably find another Thalia hand that has a second land in it. Or not. Oh, well, this is bad. I guess I'll keep this one and just hope to hit a bear. I'll bottom that. Feel really bad about my chances of winning this one. Basic Plains, we can't have terrible luck all the time. Like, some games we just have to do something. Note that I played the Cavern of Souls out first here, so that if I have the opportunity to, like, draw Caracas and play around Massacre, I can. We are not quite that lucky. But we did get a rest in peace. And I am going to value playing that rest in peace over just wastelanding my opponent. Rest in peace is almost assuredly going to do something in this matchup. Like, it takes my opponent off of threshold. It makes Past in Flames kills impossible. This is a solid hit card. And then I have, like, mana denial for the rest of the game as follow-up. Alright, that was a bottom. So we'll point this there. My opponent doesn't even bother to flip the mana. And I'm just going to deploy this second one. It probably does nothing, but if my opponent duresses or something like that, I don't want it just gone for no value, and I have nothing else I can do with my mana this turn. No mana for you, sir. Yeah, my opponent is flooding badly, that's for sure. So, like, there are 3 lands in my opponent's exile zone already. Yes, this is what the children call getting there. Note here, we are going to get Canonist over Thalia, so that if my opponent plays a Dread of Night, it doesn't sweep my board. Yeah, win's a win, you know, scoreboard. We might not be getting that win, though. We'll see. So, I don't know why my opponent is pausing, but I've been in this situation a lot where, like, I think I have something and then I rethink and I go, oh man, I just effed up. That kind of feels like what this pause is. Like, my opponent might have to go for something real risky that involves, like, another ritual, cast Infernal Tutor, crack LED, ad nauseum with nothing left over. That sort of thing. Oh. This is weird. Is there a Past in Flames kill from here? Not with this amount of mana. Yeah, what can my opponent do with 4? Empty. Okay. So I should just beat 12 goblins, right? Because I deal with 3 this turn, followed by 2 on all subsequent turns. So my opponent attacks in for 12. I take 9, go to 10. They lose 3 goblins. Yeah, this seems beatable. Okay, so now I just like play sword, bash in with sword. Okay, so I can hit in for 7 this turn if I put it on Canonist and attack with Mom as well. And 7 puts my opponent dead next turn to Canonist. Canonist alone, that is. So I should probably just go for the aggro line. My opponent can hit me for 9, but I'm at 10. So in order for my opponent to kill me, they would need Tendrils, but Tendrils is in exile. Yes, Fatal Push would suck. But, like, it has to be Fatal Push this turn, right? Fatal Push next turn doesn't do anything. And they've used an Echoing Truth already, and they don't have mana for Abrupt Decay. Yeah, you can hit me to 1. That's fine. And we get there. So, game 2, beat 12 goblins via racing with SoFi. I'm a little surprised that we managed to win that mull to 5. Oh, sorry, Gamaleku. We did not play around Gut Shot. That's on me. B18C. Opponent plays Eldrazi. I'll keep this hand against Eldrazi. I don't think I want to reveal the fact that I have this, this Wasteland just yet, so I'm going to fetch basic planes here and play an Ether Vial. Basic planes with the hard soul read. Alright, opponent goes for the Chalice on 1 off a Spirit Guide, and I accept. So, since my opponent, since I can't play the swords, I just want to port my opponent since they can't actually do anything with that Eldrazi Temple during their turn. And then I can have the option to wasteland either this Eldrazi Temple or the next land that they play. A few turns down the line, I will plan on Flicker Wisping this Chalice of the Void to turn on my Flicker Wisp. Oh, right, Legacy Banned list. Yeah, sure. I'll talk about that when my opponent tanks about something. We're going to get rid of the Eye of Ugin since it represents the most potential mana. And I'm just going to continue to port my opponent for the time being. I'm effectively quite far ahead on board. So, generally speaking, there probably aren't very many cards that can come off of the banned list safely. You know, most of the cards that are left there are pretty degenerate in some way or another. But there are some cards that probably deserve to get the axe for various reasons. I am a personal advocator of banning Deathrite Shaman. I think that card has done a lot to decrease diversity in Legacy. You know, when the control decks and your aggro decks are both playing the same card because it's that good, that's sort of a scary sign for format health reasons. Oh, wow. Follow-up, thought not. It's a shame you probably can't beat this Jitte that I have on board already. Yeah, so like 100% in all seriousness, Deathrite Shaman single-handedly has led to the death of some archetypes. Like there are some decks that just cannot compete with what that card is doing. And, you know, that is not hyperbole at all. Goblins was a great example of that. And, you know, like to a certain extent that is a little bit, you know, overhyped and over-exaggerated, but, like, really, it being a 1-2 was such a huge deal in that matchup. And, like, the Goblins decks had to, like, warp and start playing, like, a bunch of Tar Fires to try to compete with that. And that was bad against a lot of, you know, the rest of the stuff the deck could be doing. You know, you get the idea. So we're just gonna go ahead and accumulate some Jitte counters. Oh, alright. Forgot about that. There's talk of, like, potential bannings of lots of cards in Legacy, but I think a lot of people who say, you know, this card needs to be banned don't play enough of the format to really say that stuff. So, like, there are plenty of people who say, you know, True Name Nemesis needs to be banned. Is that a fun card to play against? No. Is it an interactive card to play against? No. Is it answerable? Yes, absolutely. It's a very frustrating card to play against. Is it ban-worthy? No, probably not. Would the format be healthier with it around? Maybe. There are a lot of people who talk about banning Gataxian Probe as well. I don't think that is a ban-worthy card. I don't think it does enough to justify doing something like that. I don't have lethal here, do I? I can only hit for 8 more now. Yeah, like when I say the deck was invalidated, I mean like it has no shot of being tier 1 or close to it. That doesn't mean that the deck has like no game whatsoever. All right, so I have 12, 15, 16, 17. I have 17 damage showing, but if my opponent makes this attack, then that most certainly means that like they have some follow-up play, so they're not dead. So I will expend 1 Jitte counter to just deal with this. Oh, no, the opponent was just bad and like missed the fact that they were potentially dead. That's fine too. And I'll just port them again. No need to play any of these creatures here. Sure. What would you like to do with those? Attack? I'll gain 2 life. Okay. Now what? Two. 4. Alright. We win. I have shown that I know how my deck works. Maybe opponent didn't think I knew how to use Jitte since I didn't activate it yet. That's fair. So the problem is with like Deathrite Shaman in Legacy, it's a card that is so powerful and so flexible that a lot of the like so-so decks of Legacy, a lot of the decks with sort of like medium power level that do a lot of interesting and strong things, but like can't necessarily consistently attack a lot of the top decks, just like might fold to the card. Alright, so 100% Mom out in this matchup. It's not great. And then like some number of like these Thalia and Vren Wingmares are probably getting trimmed. And there is a question of like, what do we want to do with these P and Ks? Like, do we want to play them? They're hard on the mana, but they generate a lot of chump blocking bodies, and like they are technically removal. I tend to cut about 2 Thalias in this matchup. And I guess I can probably cut a Wingmare as well, because P and K is probably just better than Wingmare. Yes, a lot of my ideal games involve like 2 early removal spells followed by Magus of the Moon. Like that locks up most things. So we're playing Mirren Crusader to like just trade with the Thought-Knots here, if that's something we need to do, and just as another first strike body, and we're bringing in the Relic Warder to get rid of things like Chalice. Sounds great. Like, it's got a Vial, a Swords to Plowshares, a Wasteland. It's not the best of my opponent turn 1 Chalices, but otherwise this is a very strong hand. This is an even better hand once my opponent has mulliganed. My opponent starts with an Endless One on 2. Not the strongest opening. I kind of want to lead on Wasteland, so that if I draw a second Wasteland, I have the opportunity to double Wasteland my opponent on this next turn. I'll be a little sad if my opponent Thought-Knots and takes his Swords to Plowshares, but if they take the Swords to Plowshares, then I'm still left with, like, Stoneforge. And this Sorceress Spyglass has a lot of work to do. Like, they get to choose one of Aether Vial, Wasteland, Windswept Heath, or Stoneforge Mystic. Good luck. It might need to just be like Stoneforge Mystic, because they might just fold to like me flooping a Batterskull into play. What they pick with Spyglass might be very telling about the contents of the rest of their hand. Alright, they pick Aether Vial. They want this game to slow down a little bit. My opponent is Resource Light. They're down to 3 cards. I'm just going to go ahead and Wasteland them and hold up Windswept Heath Fetch for Plateau. It's not the most mana efficient thing in the world, but if my opponent, like, Thought-Knots or something like that, I really want to be able to remove it before I lose that opportunity. Although, like, maybe I'm supposed to just make my opponent have the Thought-Knot, like, right now and I jam Stoneforge. But I think there's a decent chance that my opponent just bricks on land drops, or has a bunch of fat in their hand that they can't cast right now. So I'm going to get them. Yep. Endless One for 4. That is a big Endless One. Yep. I will go ahead and remove that. You know, it's not the sort of thing we want to remove, but we have the option to, so we will. try to go for the batter skull win now. Alright, opponent had a dismember. That's okay. I can recruit her for, like, either a Magus or another Stoneforge. Eric, I'm aware. But like I had to make a choice between whether or not I wanted to like have access to red or have access to a basic plains. And in that world, I think it is more important to have access to red, like in case we draw P and K. You like getting Magus here? So it's probably between getting Magus and getting a Flicker Wisp. The Flicker Wisp can just like flicker this endless one. But Magus is probably really strong right now. Like it just sets my opponent back to like 3 regular mana. I think that's fine. And then with like any one other land, I can deploy the Batter Skull. So like if I get the Relic Order, I Relic Order the Spyglass, and then like I put in another recruiter and like I recruit her for Flicker Wisps, and that's fine too. So like this is sort of exactly what I was just talking about, where like I get to play Magus and then like next turn I play Batter Skull, hardcast. Opponent should have like animated their factory in response to like keep that exact thing from happening, but whatever. Undo, attack. Alright, opponent scoops it up. Alright, so we are on the draw there and we win. And that's a win with Magus into Batter Skull. Alright folks, I hope you enjoyed that second stream. This won't be a usual occurrence, but, you know, I was happy enough to do it today. Thank you so much for those of you who subscribed and donated during today's stream. It really means a lot to me, you know, more than I let on air, so to speak. You know, I've come a long way with Thraben University in about the last year and a half. You know, it originated as a site that was, you know, kind of a glorified blog, and, you know, now I've got this stream, a good set of followers, a lot of people that I can ask for advice. But without further ado, I really need to go to bed. So I will get to answering some messages from you all in the morning, and I will be in touch. Thank you so much for this evening. Good night, everyone.